Okay. We will call the meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission to order. It's Tuesday, June 1st, and this is Bobby Stauffer presiding in the absence of Steve Hinnick and Mitzi Rosilian. We will start with the roll call. Russ O'Leary.
Here.
Jennifer Peterson.
Here.
John Reardon.
Here.
John Weitzel. Here. And Bobby Stauffer here. Now we're going to skip the minutes this time and review them next time. We have public comment for items on the agenda. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? Seeing none, we'll move on to old and new business. We first have a design review COA for 222 East Park Street, Sparky's Garage.
Thank you, Bobby, and good evening, everybody. So our first project is a design review for Sparky's. The owner, David Drew, is here tonight, but I'll present first. And he has applied for URA grant to do some work on Sparky's. So here's the 1959 photograph of that building. Here is what it looks like now. This is the architectural rendering of what they're proposing to do. So I'll go through it in these photographs. So basically, you know, it's a 4-bay configuration. The eastern bay was a storefront originally, and if you look back, it had plywood infill in that window, and so they're proposing to keep the infill, but it'll be vertical tongue and groove at the top, and then metal along the base, and it's not corrugated metal, it's a smooth metal that's bonderized, and it'll be colored, and then it'll have framing around it. The next two bays are center bays, and they're the garage doors. These drawings don't show, but they're intending to keep that garage door look with window. They'll be paneled wood with window rows. And then the bay to the west it was a recessed storefront, and it has been altered over the years, and you can see it there where it has a recessed entry and then windows on either side, and the window bay to the far west is a little smoking alcove. And so they're planning to put new windows in, put the metal base in, and kind of reconfigure that little smoking area. There'll also be metal awnings over each bay. So here's kind of what the whole evolution is. There's the 1959 photographs, and then you can see how it looks now, and then what they're proposing to do. Here's, maybe it isn't a smoker's den right now, but they're going to configure it into a little smoking area. There'll be a little bench in there. And then they're proposing to enlarge the entry, the main entry, which I'm sure you've all been to Sparky's. That's on the west side by the parking lot. And they'll be putting in a double door there, and then raising the sign up so that it's more visible. So it'll be like this, and that'll be smooth metal bonderized backing. And then I forgot to add onto your thing that they're adding a door on the east side, which will be a service entry, and I think that's appropriate as well. So That's what's being proposed. Mr. Drew, would you like to?
I think you pretty well covered it.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a great improvement without really changing too much of the original brick and look that was there. What did we figure, in the early 50s, that the garage doors were there, or at least the last picture that you found. We don't
Yeah.
know. So they've been there about 70 years now, so we're going to kind of keep the same look and but clean it up. It needs, all that wood on the bottom below that window right there is all rotted out. And, with the metal there, we get a lot of splashing from the cars going by. We'll protect that. And then we'll put new tongue and groove similar to what's on there now or that's been on there. It looks like it was a long time.
Yeah.
Other than that, simple.
I wouldn't be approving corrugated metal on that base, but the smooth metal, I think, will have a much cleaner finish. And I think it is really important there because they do get so much melt off and runoff from the sidewalks. So, and the sign, you're keeping that Sparky sign there. It's the drawing doesn't look, it looks a little different, but that's, and then they'll be doing some other improvements too, like a new parking lot. So,
And then there'll be all new sidewalks, on all the city streets also, and along our building right there.
Okay, thank you. I had just a couple questions. When you said that you're keeping the sign, what do you mean, what sign? Do you want to go back to the sign page? Okay. Okay. So that green sign is going to be the sign still?
it's just going to get raised up. The drawing doesn't display it very well.
Oh, good. And those little Texaco lights and the bar grill casino, all that will stay? It'll just be raised up? Or that the sign will be the same, it'll just be higher?
Around the doors? Yeah, there's going to be, a little bit of the flat metal, and then we'll leave, some of that'll still remain the brick. And, of course, that's one new section of a double door with some lights on it that would enhance the entrance immensely, and then it'll be lit under all the awnings, including the ones on Park Street. That'll be lit underneath, which should really, make a nice, clean appearance, and people like it when it's lit up a little bit, so.
But the sign will be the same, or will it be the
Yeah,
new sign?
oh, I'm
They're
sorry,
gonna
the neon
reuse the
sign.
sign.
Yes, yeah, that, and I think we're going to have to bring that up a little bit is all, but yes, that'll be the same sign, yep.
Okay, good. That's a really cool
Yeah, we
sign.
designed that to look like an old, neon sign from the 40s or whatever.
Yeah, I also wondered on the garage doors on Park Street, are you going to be able to open them up for like outdoor
Well,
serving?
and we're kind of debating that ourselves, but I mean, we're going to leave it, it's going to look, real close to what it is now, but we weren't sure. We were thinking of closing the one off, but it's been in use for so long, and the garage door opener still works. Being on the north side, there really aren't that many days when we actually use it, but we do once in a while. So we're thinking we probably will leave it intact, so, as far as the opener, so.
Okay, thank you. Does any other commission members have questions? Russ?
I just had a quick question about the garage doors too. Are those are solid panel garage doors? Or they don't have lights in them, do they?
Well, they have,
Oh, they do.
well, no, there's lights. I mean, on the one that functions, there's three rows of them that are just insulated glass in there. The other one is, I believe it just has either siding or plywood on the back of it, and it's made to look like it has window pane in it.
And the
the
new
others-
the new garage doors will have lights
Well,
on,
and
or no?
Yeah, we're not 100% sure we're going to tear those out and start over either.
Sure.
You know, we're going to look at it pretty close because, you know, where it's there and working and functioning, we might just repaint it.
Sure, okay.
Drew, on the other one, where the sign, you're gonna raise it up, but you got the two nice ornate Texaco signs on flanking the doors there. Are they gonna be put back up there too?
You mean the two, we had
The
those
two Texaco
neat
ones, yeah.
architectural
Yeah.
pieces. Yeah, we plan on putting those back up too because
Cool.
they kind of give us the flavor of our business.
You bet.
know, and the name and, right, so,
Yeah,
yeah, those will be back up on
Yeah,
the sides.
those are classy.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we got those from a antique dealer that I know in Salt Lake City. That
Yeah.
had a bunch of really neat stuff that we buy from occasionally.
Sweet.
Yeah, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve this design review COA as it's been presented to us.
And I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye?
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it.
Great. Is that it? I'm a better cook than speaker, so, you know, I'll go back and flip a few burgers. Thank you. Yep, all right, we'll see you later. Thank you, Mary.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, we'll move on now to a design review COA for 201 South Montana.
Oh, so this building is on the southwest corner of Mercury in Montana, and this is the Mercury Street facade. I just put it because it fit here. But as you can see, it's a warehouse, and it has all those great industrial sash windows all the way around. And they're proposing to replace them all, which I'm very sad about because they're such great windows. But I did talk to the owners, and they couldn't make it here tonight. But the problem really is that there's so much air leakage. And they said actually, when I went to photograph, I see where in some of them they put up boards with insulation behind it. So I'm very sad because they're just such great windows, and I wish they could be reglazed, but, being consistent with what we do with other things and the problems that they're having there, they're going to replace all 26 windows. They're using Milgard fiberglass sash windows. They'll be black, and they'll have a grid of, it's not going to be on the outside. It'll be a grid of muttons between the two panes, but it'll have the same light configuration. It's they're going to look more like modern windows than historic windows. But after speaking with them and everything, I think they have a couple of really good renters in there. Marilyn Mason does printing there of her artwork into posters, and I guess it's been a real problem with how cold and drafty it is. So anyway, I recommend approval of this project.
Thank you, Mary. Does anybody have any questions? Russ?
So when you're saying that they're the divided portion of the windows, that configuration is staying essentially the same,
Correct.
but it's an internal.
Yeah, it'll be where you'll have the two panes of glass and it's a grid inside.
Yeah.
It's not the grid on the outside.
Yeah.
It's a grid inside. But they are using these are expensive windows. They're using, those Milgard fiberglass, they should be, they're substantial windows.
Yeah.
It's an improvement that will last for a long time.
And are they doing Are they doing some operable windows, or are they all fixed?
There are some operable ones, right now they're in, industrial sash where they're awning and they go out. And they have a lot of them are fixed, especially the upper stories, but the lower stories, I think they're all awning or hopper. I think they're awning. Yeah, so some of them will still be operable.
Okay.
The other question
John?
I have too is with the garage doors, I mean, are they going to be improving this building, or are they just to more renters, or?
I think right now they're just focusing in on the windows because that's the biggest problem that they have. They didn't, they're getting a URA grant, so that's why this design review is coming to us. And the garage doors, which are non-historic, were not included. So I don't know if they have any plans to change those garage doors, but this is, this is like almost $60,000 worth of windows that they're putting in here, so I think that's probably a biggest bite as they can take right now.
Who's the owner on it? Didn't this used to belong to Terry O'Keefe and her husband or something, and they were going to do a big party place there for the, like Chuck E. Cheese or whatever it was. It seems like a while back. Then they were, and they got a bunch of money. Then I think Terry O'Keefe's husband split town or whatever.
Well, the owner that is Mark Gigoletto and Terry O'Keefe, and I believe it was Terry that I talked to, but it was just on the phone, and I never heard that, but I'm sure that could have been true.
Okay, because I went to school with Terry O'Keefe, but anyway, I just remember at that time because he left or something, and this was the last time they got a loan or something, and then they were going to put in new garage floors and all this other stuff in there, and then it all evaporated, and he left town or something, and so I'm just kind of curious, I mean, as long as they're paying for it, I mean, that's no problem, but I know last time they got a big grant, and they went adios.
Well, if they got a URA grant and they, you only get reimbursed when you do the work. So, we could, the URA can approve something, but, they got to do the work and hand in the receipts and stuff before they get approved. And, I mean, what I was told is there's Martha Mason in there now, and then they have another renter, and they want to be able to rent more space. So to me, it seems like their plans are to use it as a rental property and just to get additional renters in there and keep the ones that they have.
Yeah. I remember being in there when it was Eben Goff's studio, and it's wonderful light for art studios. So I think it's great that they're wanting to make it warmer and keep the basic window design look, and I think it has a big future as a studio space, at least. John?
What about the ghost signage? Does that stay on all these buildings, or is that up to the person that owns it?
The Historic Preservation Ordinance considers ghost signs as historic properties on their own. So if somebody wanted, if they came, I just don't really know how that works. If somebody came for a URA loan or an East Butte loan and they wanted to paint over a ghost sign on a historic building, then I think we would have something to say about that. Yeah, but I don't know if somebody is going to paint over a sign and use all their own money. I think we don't get any comment.
Okay, hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve this design review COA at 201 South Montana as it's been presented to us.
Okay, second by John Reardon. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right?
All opposed, nay? No? I'm aye, too. I won't do that. I'm new at this.
Rookie.
Okay, moving on to the next design review COA at 402 East Broadway, the Helsinki Bar, or the Helsinki Sauna.
Helsinki sauna, I remember that. So anyway, the applicant, or the owner, has gone to the East Butte, I think it's East Butte, I can't remember, is going to the East Butte RRA for a sign for this building, and they retained John Weitzel for the signs design and fabrication. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. White.
There we go. What we got here, it's a pretty simple sign. I had a picture that Kathy Folio had sent me, and I'm kind of looking for it now. But she had a picture of the old owner out there, and they were standing underneath the old sign that was built by Butte Neon back in the early 60s. And so she sent me a picture of that, so I went pretty much off of what's on the front of the bar, according to what was the sign that was originally there. And so it's going to be like 5 different, the 3 panels there. It's going to have the Helsinki and then the round one, but they're going to be layered, out a little bit. Like the Helsinki's going to, be out like about 1 inch or 2 inches, and then they're just going to be kind of layered panels and stuff. It's going to be a very inexpensive sign for her. The top panel is going to be the sign grade plywood, real good, and then the other stuff would be the composite aluminum, and it'll all be with vinyl, the high performance vinyl, and then it will be just attached into the motor joints. And it'll be non-illuminated. She's going to have lights up across the top of it there. So very, very simple sign in that. So she just kind of to replicate the original sign that from years ago. And I can find the picture if you guys really want to see the picture. But if not, I'll. Okay.
I see you. This is your 3rd arrow sign, John.
Oh, yeah, the arrows are big this year here. Let me get this here. It might be in the, let's see if here. Let me do this real quick. Back.
John, is this sign, I'm just looking at the picture, and it is sitting on the front of the building. It's not actually turned, is it?
Right, yeah, it's just right on the front of the building, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
it goes right on the front there, yeah.
There's really nothing that protrudes besides the
No,
relief.
the most it's going to be out is like the Helsinki part will be out about 1 inch or 1.5 inches from the brick is all.
Okay.
And
Was the original hanging on the building?
Yeah, it was
sideways?
right on the corner there. It was right off the corner, so you saw it coming up and down the street there. And I should have done this before I got here, but I didn't.
It seems weird that she wouldn't want a sign on the west side of the building to
Not
catch
this
people.
particular time, not this particular time, but she's looking at it, for down the road and that. So she just wants to get everything opened up and that. So we're just trying to get the signage on there, and then because she doesn't know what she wants to do on the sidewall there. We were talking about possibly painting a mural, putting a neon display or something on there, or possibly even doing replicate the original sign off of the corner of the building there, the 45 degrees, so you see it coming up over Broadway and then up that street. I can't remember what the name of the street is there. Unfortunately, I cannot find that picture at this time, but when I get it, I will email it to everybody so they can see it. And it was pretty simple. The Helsinki sign is pretty much the white part, and then the circle part, I put the word bar in there. But when you look at the picture, it had, it was the neon part of the sign, it was red, and it had steam baths, and dinner or a cafe, steam bass dinner and something else in there. Oh, packaged liquor to go. And so I knew the sign was pretty beat up, you could hardly even read it, but anyway, that's pretty much what I modeled this after that, so.
It's really not here nor there, but, I mean, this building has terrible historic integrity as far as, you know, it's been so extensively remodeled. I mean, it's really hard to make a case that it's a contributing element, but it has such a great history. I think that was what pushed it over the edge, being the only, you know, one of the few finished left from the finished neighborhood. But I look at it and it's just like, oh, man, I wish we could get them to do some other
Nice
stuff.
that it's still open and still a going concern.
Just an interesting side note for this, when I was doing my apprenticeship at Butte Neon, Ray Orvilla, who was the carpenter and plastic guy down at Butte Neon, he was born and raised, his parents immigrated from Finland, and they lived right next door to the Helsinki. And so that was Ray Orvilla's hangout. So I used to go have beers with him when I was an apprentice, and he used to break me in.
I was at the archives last week and I ran across an old photo of the Helsinki. It doesn't look anything like that now. No. Nothing. Might be the same photo that you're trying to find.
All right, well, I'll make a motion to approve this design review COA for 402 East Broadway as it's been presented.
I have to refuse myself.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve this COA, and John Weitzel has recused himself. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? The motion carries. Okay, moving on now to a demolition review at 407 Virginia. Mary?
Yeah, I just stuck this in. This is the 1916 Sanborn, and Virginia, you can, oh, did I get the right one? Yeah, Virginia. Oh, I think I got no, it's the right one. Virginia Street is just this short little street, but you can just see there's all those little worker cottages in a row, and that was, you know, the historical significance of this neighborhood is all those little worker cottages in a row, and this is definitely one of them. The picture on the left is the 1959 photograph, and so you can tell, I mean, it had been extensively remodeled by 1959. I mean, that house would not have looked like that during the historic era. It would have had a different porch and not those big picture windows. But here it is today, and I think almost but Russell wasn't able to make the inspection. But I put these photographs in. You can't see the one on the left. There's the east slope of the roof, and you can't really see from here. But if you look at your package, you could see where the shingles were missing, and so there's damage on the roof there. Definitely extensive damage on that shed roof wing at the back where I believe the kitchen was. And then you can see the missing shingles on the west slope of the roof. And then you see it when you go inside. This is the living room. You can just see that the ceiling's sagging there, and then that's a picture of the hole that's towards the back behind the light. And as John Reardon pointed out, that's vermiculite, is that what you said? It's asbestos. But then we have this damage in other rooms. The picture on the left is the bedroom, which is in the main part of the house, where you see the bad shingling on the west slope. And then the other picture is back in the kitchen area. So, you know, it's suffered a lot of deterioration. I mean, you'd have to really, to save this building, you'd have to, you know, pull the whole roof off and probably do a lot of reframing and stuff. It's packed full of items, interesting stuff that should be salvaged either by the owner or if she's not interested in stuff that it should be salvaged by Butte CPR or Habitat for Humanity. And so with that said, I did recommend that we approve this demolition permit. It makes me really sad, but I just don't think this is something that is, it would be difficult to salvage, and she definitely will, if we deny a demolition permit, this will be going to council, and I just don't think council would go with this. So that's, my recommendation was, again, approval of the demolition permit with a condition for salvage. I talked about the owner, what salvage meant, and she was very amenable to that. So, you know, she will go through and take out the things that she wants, and then let Butte CPR and Habitat for Humanities come through, and if there's additional things that they'd like to salvage. I know that, you know, Mitzi was saying that the wood, that Butte CPR would be very interested in the wood flooring. So that's
Okay,
that.
Thank you, Mary. John, do you have a question? No? Oh, your mic is on.
Oh, okay.
Jennifer?
Is she just gonna turn it into yard?
Yes, she lives in the house next door. And as you can see, it's very close, the one, you know, to the, and this house, its associated property is just basically where it is. The big lot, empty lot you see behind it is not part of this property. So she definitely, she said, all I'm gonna do is tear it down and make it part of my yard. I think it would be, actually, I don't know what you would build, I mean, maybe you could build a shed or something there, but access would be very difficult if you wanted to build a garage or anything like that. And she was a very nice individual, not, you know, I explained the process to her, and she didn't get mad at me like they sometimes do, or be belligerent. I just, you know, she was very matter of fact, but no, she does not want to build there. She doesn't want anything there. But
Should we consider throwing in, if she does decide to have a design review? in our motion?
we can put that in there if you want to add that as a condition, sure.
Yeah,
Okay. If you want to make that motion. Jennifer, come on, you can do it.
I'll make a motion to approve this demolition review COA at 407 West Virginia with the suggestion or condition of salvage for some local entity like CPR or Habitat, and design review if any future building happens at the site.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to review this with conditions. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to a determination of eligibility for 3825 South Wyoming.
To be clear on this process, you know, this property is well outside the landmark district in a part of the flat that has not, like the rest of the flats, hasn't had much inventory work. And so the first thing we need to do is decide if this property is eligible for listing in the National Register. So I did that evaluation, and I always record my evaluations on Montana Historic Property Forms, because then that's what the State Historic Preservation Office accepts, and I turn them in to them and stuff. So that's, and we just keep our I's dotted and our T's crossed. So it's really kind of a weird part of town. It's kind of like, I don't know if it's even part of, within the city limits. But they didn't, this little piece of South Wyoming, it goes off of Holmes Street and then goes down and it connects with Meadowlark Lane. And it wasn't even, it's not paved now, and I don't think it went all the way through. It doesn't even show up in the 1996 topographic map is going all the way through. I did look at the earliest topograph, of course, there's no Sanborn maps for this area, and, because it's so isolated and very little, development is widespread and sparse. The 1959 topographic map did not show this house. And so when I did the title work, these people owned all these lots. They owned all these lots. Like, there's this town site, town site that was platted in 1907, and then, but they just sold the lots for there's 3 lots at this property, and they sold them in believe it was 1977. And then I looked at the city directories, and they have a street index in back, and that's the first time, I think 1979 was the first time I found this address listed, but sometimes it would be, I'd go through the years and it'd be 3825 South Wyoming, and then it'd be 3825 Wynn Street, and it'd be 3825 Arizona. And I realize now, after looking at the 1996 topo, is they didn't really know what this street was, and then it formally got to be part. But anyway, just to make a long story short, this is, the front of the house is definitely an old craftsman house. It was probably built in the teens or the 20s, somewhere up on the hill. I have no idea where. And then it was moved down to this site probably in 1977, 78. So it's a moved older building. The current owner, his uncle lived in here, had it in the, until like 5 years ago, and lived here for several years. And there was another old house moved in, and it's that, okay, so if you look at the top photo on your left, the part to the right is the front, is the craftsman. Then to the left was another old house, and then he built an addition in between and tied it all together. And then at some point, the whole house got wrapped in new siding, new windows. But you can see the roof lines tell you about its construction history. Anyway, so the current owner, he would like to demolish this house. So our first thing before we need to do is decide if it's a historic property. And it's certainly, there is no historic district down in this area. It's, trailers and some old, I think there's maybe a couple older houses that are probably moved in as well, and then some more modern, modest homes. And then in regards to this house being possibly independently eligible, I think it's pretty clear that it's not. It was moved to the site, in the modern era, and it's been extensively remodeled. I mean, if it was a great craftsman house or a really unique, great piece of historic architecture, I think, then we could have maybe said it was independently eligible under criteria C for its architectural merits, but this house isn't. So that's my recommendation. It's not eligible.
Thank you, Mary. Jennifer?
I was just curious, do they lose a little bit of eligibility when they are moved off their original site?
Yes. If you're moved, you can move properties, it's more difficult. Like, I think move properties, if the stuff like the places that were moved from South Idaho to make way for the new town pump, they can still contribute to the district because they were moved to a similar setting in the landmark district. And they date to the historic period and to the district's period of significance. So yes, there is when you look at the National Register criteria for evaluation, there is a criteria for moved properties, historic properties, but for what they have to be, they have to have a similar setting, and they have to really retain high integrity, meaning, they haven't been remodeled much on the exterior, and then they have to be have some sort of significance, and it's usually architectural. So yes, if this was a great example of some piece of architecture, or, well, I can't even think of all the reasons, but it's definitely, I mean, not eligible. And so, just to make that, if you concur with my finding that it's not eligible, that ends the review process for the demolition. We don't review demolition permits for properties that aren't eligible for the National Register.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to determine that this, or concur with our HPO, that this property is not eligible independently at 3825 South Wyoming.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to concur with the recommendation that this is not an eligible property. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it yet again.
Our next demolition properties are 2 demolitions down on Walnut Street, 2 little houses, one at 2221 and 2225 Walnut. That little red thing's kind of where they're at. You know, that's down in the Greeley neighborhood. It's, you know, just south of, I don't know what that, east-west, I guess it's not called Continental Drive there, but it's just like 2 streets south of there. Farrell, correct, yeah, you're right. You know, with the pit overlooking, you know, it's an interesting neighborhood. It was, you know, platted early on, and that addition was platted early on in the 1890s, but it, you know, development really didn't start there until they had the streetcar go through. And even then, I mean, if you look at the sandboards, it was still pretty sparse by, I mean, it was enough that they built the Greeley School in 1905, and these properties are about 4 blocks west of the Greeley School. But there's a lot of, it started to really get developed once the Berkeley pit opened and they started destroying Meterville and East Butte, and people started moving more down into this neighborhood. It's definitely a working class neighborhood, but again, I didn't, you know, drive around and take a lot of pictures because I think you're all pretty familiar. There's a lot of trailer houses, there's some modern houses, and a lot of the older houses that are there have been remodeled. And so it's just not a historic district. And so we had to look at these, both properties, as being independently eligible. Here they are. You can see they're side by side with a trailer house in between them. 2221 Walnut, I believe was built around 1925 by a miner. And there was a little kind of vestibule and an addition or a wing on the east side that you can see there that has been gone for a little while. The black and white photograph is from 1959. There was a fire in this house in March, and there was 2 women. One of them, they both got a lot of smoke inhalation, and one of them did die, which is sad. A lot of the damage was contained to the living room, which I think must be that front, where the front window is with the plywood on it. But the fire marshal did not want to evoke the safety exclusion because he said it was still structurally sound. The photograph on the left is, I took that off of Google Maps, and so you could see that the garage door and how it's orientated. And then the other photograph is a recent photograph of the back of the house. So it's kind of unusual. It has that drop siding on the front and then wood shingle siding on the other walls. But you can see that there was, you know, a lot of the windows are gone from the fire. And you know, if this was a historic district, this could definitely be a contributing element of a historic district, but it just doesn't have the integrity or the significance to be independently eligible for the National Register.
Is that garage below the house? I wonder if that was a much later addition. That doesn't seem.
Well, I was wondering,
normal.
because when you look at this 1959 photograph, you see those bushes out front and you can't see it, but I don't think so. I think it's original, but that's just me because of those garage doors. But I don't know.
Know what they're planning to do? Does the person own that trailer in the middle as well, or?
I don't know what's going on with the trailer. All I know is that both of these buildings were tagged dangerous by community enrichment. And so the property owner came to me with demolition permits. And so that's why I did these determinations of eligibility. So I don't know what's going on with the trailer, if she owns them as well. She didn't bring me a demolition permit application for the trailer, just the two houses.
Okay, but really the only ruling we're making here is that you have recommended them as not eligible for listing on their own, and that will be what the motion will be.
All right, I'll make a motion to concur with our HBO's recommendation that 2221 Walnut is not a contributing, independently contributing element.
Do we need to do these
Independently
separately?
eligible.
Let's just say it's not eligible for listing in the National Register. We'll just do it that way. And it's not in a historic district, and it's not, a historic district's a big group of, our landmark districts where buildings either contribute or non-contribute, and that makes it easier in some ways, because like, if this was a historic district, this would contribute. It's got enough, but it's all on its own, just to say, I'm a National Register property, all on my own. Yeah. So we can just say it's not eligible for listing.
Not eligible for listing. So amended motion here. We will concur with the HPO's recommendation that 2221 Walnut is not independently eligible.
I'll second it.
Okay, moved and seconded that 2221 Walnut is not eligible for listing in the National Register. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Want to do the same thing for 2225?
Do you have
Well,
a separate presentation for
Oh,
this?
you're going to present.
I gotta present it. I mean, this is a really cute little shotgun, and if it had better integrity, I mean, it could maybe serve as an example of a style. But it's got replacement siding, all the windows are gone, and the porch has been altered. I mean, I think, even before, the photograph on the left is from 1959. The siding had been put on by then. Since then, I think that I would bet that concrete deck at the porch was added after 1959, and then they put in the solid railings, but then all the windows are gone. This house, I guess people have been breaking into it, and so they want that to stop. It's like, well, mothball it. But she applied for a demolition permit, and so you can see there's the back to the left, the rear facade, and then the east facade, the side facade on the right. And I mean, this had I think it was built sometime between 1900 and 1907, and I gleaned that from the Sanborn maps. In 1912, the State Savings Bank sold it to Andrew Kloss. I went back to try to find out when they got it, but there's just too many, I'd have to look through too many deeds to figure that out. So I don't know who the original owner is, but Andrew Kloss and his wife Sophie, his bride Sophie, I just think it's so cool they met. I just speculate that they met in this neighborhood because he was living in another house when he came to the United States in 1905. And then Sophie came in 1909, and her uncle lived on the street nearby, on the same street, and she moved in with him, so you can't help but believe that they met on Walnut Street, or maybe the bar that Andrew was working at, and then they got married and had 4 kids and lived in this little house. And then in 1924, Andrew had worked, when they got married, he got a job he worked in the smelter sometimes he was working as a miner, and then he died of pneumonia in 1924 and left Sophie behind with 4 little kids. So it's such a typical Butte story, which I love, but to make a justification for independently eligible, I just can't do it. That's my recommendation anyway. It's a cute little house, and it's got a great history, but that's my finding.
All right, I'll make a motion to concur with our HBO's recommendation that 2225 Walnut is also not independently eligible.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded by John Reardon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. And the next item on the agenda is a request for a special meeting June 15th. Mary?
Well, as John Reardon well knows, because he's on that board, the East Butte RRA is sunsetting at the end of June. And so they've just been deluged with projects, and people are still scrambling to get stuff in. So the community development or the East Butte RA agreed to push their meeting back to June 17th. It would have been last week, I believe. Anyway, just to help things along so we can get this all tied up before the end of the month. I'm hoping that maybe we could have a special meeting next Tuesday to do design review on some of the projects that are coming in. Oh, Tuesday's the 15th. Yeah, it would be right before. Yeah.
Would this be a dial-in meeting or an in-person meeting?
If you wanted, it would be in person, but if you wanted to call in, you would be able to do that.
Do we have to have a motion for this, or can you just call it? Okay.
If everybody, if no one can make it, then I'd think of something else. I just thought I'd put it out there to see if people would be, okay.
How many members do we need for a quorum?
4.
4. Okay.
You'll be here, and yeah, I think
Yeah.
we'll have a quorum
Yeah.
if you couldn't. So I really appreciate that, and it'll just make things a lot tidier. And what would really be nice, it'll come to us first before it goes to the East Butte. So if we have any, they'll have our recommendations in hand when they do their review, which is, instead of me making tentative approvals, you all will be able to make, your approval. So great, appreciate that. And then just to, I guess we could go to the.
Are there any staff or member reports? John Reardon?
Well, I find that a very difficult situation. I have never, in my years of being on the Historic Preservation Commission from 2005 to 2011, and then being Historic Preservation Officer, never did I see URA money or East Butte RA money get funded go for demolition. The first time that, as in my knowledge, and I think Mitzi would agree because we pay attention, was for the Blue Range. They applied to the URA for demolition. And today, somebody was talking about doing a demolition, and our community development director was there, and they told them that they could apply for a URA grant to help pay for the demolition, which, I mean, I don't know how to handle this, because that's very upsetting to me, because that kind of promotes demolition as far as I'm concerned.
I agree. I agree.
And so I couldn't say anything right then and there, because it was, there was people around, but I'm going to speak with her about that. I'm going to let her, my views be known, and I think the Historic Preservation Commission, we need to make a statement about that.
Right.
To the East Butte is sunsetting, so it doesn't matter, but to the URA board, it really is bothersome to me that people could pay for their demolition of historic properties. I just don't think that's right. And so what I am going to ask is, I'm just going to wait and see, but I might write something up and then send it all to you and have it come from the Historic Preservation Commission to the URA board, and maybe have people come and speak to the URA board. And I have to say that the URA board, they really look to us for direction. They did approve that demolition. I could not comment on that. The safety exclusion was evoked, and I sat there, and if they would have asked me, I would have told them what I thought. And people came in, I think Russell spoke at that meeting and voiced objections to the funding of a demolition with URA money, especially such a significant historic, to me, that's just encouraging the demolition of historic buildings. So I think it's something we really need to address. I was surprised when I heard that today, if you wanted. Now, the demolition that they were proposing is a demolition that I would be recommending approval of, because it's an older building. I don't think it's contributing, but we can talk about that later. But I just don't think, if we're trying to, preserve it just puts the URA in conflict with preservation, and I don't think we need that. But that's just my personal opinion. So I will write something up for you all to review, but I do think it's important that it maybe come from, or I can draft something and then you all could work on it. I think it would be important for it to come from the Historic Preservation Commission. Not that, I just think, you're the bigger body.
And to that point, it clearly is in conflict with the goals of the URA, adding to the tax base, not decreasing the tax base. It's money that the taxpayers paid. This is Butte-Silver taxpayer money being used for private purposes to demolish buildings, private buildings. And I can possibly stomach the idea of using some of this URA money for demolition as part of a much larger package that is a contributing, adding to the district. But to like they did with the old Cribs building, using it simply to demolish a building with no expectation of redevelopment. They plan to redevelop the lot supposedly, but no strings attached, no expectation. I think it's completely irresponsible for the county to direct public money that direction. It's crazy.
Yeah, the Cribs is just such a thing, because, they evoked the safety exclusion, and then we went, but we didn't even get to put a condition on for anything, and that's troublesome too. I just think, I'm very opposed to it, but certainly it has to, if I just say that, it's nice to have some support. And I think the HPC needs to make this, direct themselves to the URA board. So,
That sounds like a good idea. John?
I'd just like to interject something here. You know, it seems like this show, like I said, I'm new again and all that, has been going on for quite a while, and I think it's time for some of these committees, what I see in local government, I'm not saying all committees, are kind of a stamp-through process deal and all that. And I think it's time, this committee, you do a hell of a job. And I mean, there's no other better person in the state that does a better job than you. But we have to make a stand to make this thing right. As commissioners, when that deal went through and all that stuff, they basically circumvented us and come at us through the back door when we were working with the HPC ordinance. And the two parties involved in that building basically lied to the commission in saying that the demolition was built into the buy-sell agreement. And then all of a sudden here, 2 or 3 days later, they're getting $20,000 or $40,000 to tear down the building. And I think really when they look at their legal options is the fact that what's the difference if Johnny Weitzel has a shed on the 300 block of Colorado and it's designated but has to come down, why can't he go up there and get money to demolish it and all that? And I think that's where it's headed, and I agree with Russ entirely. This is our money. It isn't somebody's money just to give away as see fit. It should be controlled money through a process. And I think that if we start that process, maybe we can turn some heads and get some questions asked about how come this, how come that. So I think it's a great start, and I'd like to really participate in it. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to staff and member reports. Is there anything else under there?
I don't really have a staff report, but I got very behind, as you know, and I need to submit my semi-annual report to the State Historic Preservation Officer, and that includes accounting and volunteer hours. So I gave you don't have any yet, but you will in our next reporting period. Our reporting period this time is from October 1st to March 31st. And I got, if you don't like the volunteer extra hours that I provided, you can cross them out and put a different amount in, if you're fine with it. If you could just sign down in that bottom, I put a red X in the box that you're supposed to sign in. If you could sign those and give them to me as you leave, that would be great, and I can get the report in tomorrow. And otherwise, if Bobby ever wants to, I don't know if you have any updates on SARTA?
No, SARTA will not be meeting until August, and I was out of town, I was working. I could have gone to the May meeting, but I was not available to attend. But I am meeting with Julia Crane on Thursday for an orientation, so I was happy that she reached out, and I'll learn more about how it functions and all. I guess there's the Dust to Dazzle tour announcement.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind everybody that Butte-Silver CPR is reviving Dust to Dazzle this year. It'll be June 26th, Saturday, it starts at noon and it goes till 5 o'clock. And so it's always a wonderful event. If you have the opportunity to attend, that'd be great, or tell your friends. I just wanted to make sure that you knew that.
And I will interject that Russell's project is one of the featured properties, so that's pretty exciting. There's a lot of good properties being featured this year. No public here for public comment for items not on the agenda, so with that, I would say we'll adjourn. Do we need a motion to adjourn? Okay.
Before we adjourn, actually, one quick question.
Oh.
I got a piece of mail from the state historic office. It was like a tube, and it had like a survey and some stuff in it. Do you know? I didn't have a chance to really read it.
I got a tube today too, and I was so busy I didn't open it. So it's a survey?
It's some kind of survey about like asking what the recommendations for the future of the historic, the State Historic Office, Preservation Office, I think. I don't,
I'm sure it was from the State Historic Preservation Office, so there probably is a survey, and
yeah,
do with it as you see fit, I guess.
okay. I guess everybody got that, so,
Yeah, that was new this year.
yeah.
And it's actually, the poster is a picture of the beginnings of the Rocky Mountain Labs in Hamilton.
Oh, yeah.
They send this to us every year,
Oh, it is?
and it's a different poster every year. It's kind of fun. The survey is not every year. This is new, but there was a little flyer that was part of it this year that asked us
Yeah.
to go online, or there was one of those,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not sure what they're called, that you could scan.
Yeah,
QR
they
code.
always send a poster every year, and I just assumed it was a poster, and, you know, so I love getting their posters and putting them up, you know, but,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then one other thing, if I could, I talked to Mary briefly about this, but I feel like our commission should make some kind of statement of support for the M&M rebuild process, especially in relation to the historic aspects of it and the hopes that the new building that goes in its place in the future, if that ends up being the case, is appropriate and is channeling the energy of the original M&M. So I would like to write a letter of some sort, and maybe I'll send it to the rest of the commission for some comments and any additions, and then next, or maybe on the June 15th meeting, we can address that.
Okay, now we're adjourned, I think.